We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to This Song Is Yours, the podcast where we dive into the art of songwriting, celebrate the artists behind the music and explore the stories that bring their songs to life. I'm your host Simon Fink, and as always, thank you for joining us. Our guests today on the podcast are none other than indie rock royalty, the Wombats. The honorary Australian lads from Liverpool are back with their brand new album, Oh the Ocean, which marks their 6th studio record. This time around, they've teamed up with legendary producer John Congleton to craft yet another brilliant addition to their stellar back catalogue, one that subtly builds upon their sonic palette while still delivering the anthemic energy that fans have come to love from the Wombats. And in exciting news for Australian fans, the band have just announced that they'll be heading back our way later this year for Somersault Festival, sharing the stage with bands like DMAs, Ballpark Music and Del Water Gap, amongst some others. Now, on today's episode, we welcome Matthew Murphy, aka Murph, back to the podcast to chat all things Oh the Ocean. We dive into how the beach actually served as a thematic inspiration for the record, what the songwriting process looks like for Murph across both the Wombats and his solo project, and what it's like working with John Congleton this time around. We also discuss how the band's dynamic has evolved over the years, what makes for a great song title 6 albums in, and of course, their highly anticipated return to Australia later this year. Now, we want to say a huge thank you to Jaja for her help with today's episode. Oh the Ocean is out right now, and you'll find links within the show notes on where you can purchase the album and grab tickets for their upcoming Australian tour. Now, while you're there, please be sure to follow us across all of our social media channels and subscribe to the podcast on your favourite podcasting platform. Now, let's get into it. Here is our conversation with Murph from the Wombats. Please welcome back to This Song Is Yours, Matthew Murphy, aka Murph from the Wombats. Murph, hello, sir. How are we?
Hi, Simon. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for coming to have a chat with us today about a brand new Wombats record. It's very, very exciting. Oh the Ocean. It's available for people to listen to right now when they're listening to our chat. How are you feeling with a brand new record coming out?
I think I'm excited, or as excited as this vessel gets. I'm very proud of this one. Like, I've listened to it a lot, and I haven't. And some albums I don't feel that way about. So I kind of think like I've, as a band, we've done a really good job. So hopefully people feel the same.
Look, I'm sure that people are going to love this album. We've had the great fortune of having listened to it before it has come out. So, look, only from one man's personal kind of opinion, but it does sound like another fantastic record from the Wombats. Curious, as this is the 6th studio record from you guys, are there any, at this point in your career, any kind of traditions or rituals that you have when it comes to putting out a new record?
I mean, we have some traditions and rituals like before we go on stage and stuff, but no, not particularly. If anything, all kind of traditions and rituals got thrown out the window because we worked with a different producer. We worked with John Congleton for this album, and that was really the first. The last 3 Wombats albums were all done by Mark Crew, and that felt like a big change.
100%. With working with John Congleton, he's got a very kind of varied resume. I think bands like Death Cab for Cutie, St. Vincent, but then artists like Nelly Furtado, some kind of different genres of music altogether. What made John, I guess, the right person for... Actually, I should mention very quickly, the album that we were talking about is called Oh the Ocean. For this record, what made John kind of the right fit for the band this time around?
I spoke to Dan and Todd, and I was like, I think for this it's more of a risk to keep doing the same thing that we're doing with Mark than it would be to actually take a risk, if that makes any sense. And so, we were talking to John Congleton and another producer called Mike Crossy, which we'd love to work with in the future as well. But I just got on with John immediately, and John had done some mixing for Dan and Todd, and they already kind of knew him and thought he was awesome, and we just got on well. And it was also kind of the fact that he had like a chunk. We didn't want to do a record that was a little bit here, everyone flies back to their respect, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more, then someone else we just wanted to be like, fucking do it in 6 weeks, mix it, it's done. We wanted to really simplify the process, and he was able to do that and had the time. And it was really refreshing working with John. Yeah,
that's awesome to hear. I did read somewhere, I think when you initially went into the studio with him, that there was something around maybe 50 or so tracks that then was whittled down to the 12 that we have on the album today. But what was that process like? And I guess how involved was he in terms of working out what is going to I guess, form that purest, almost Wombats album?
Yeah, the process of kind of whittling the tracks down was not enjoyable. But, I do believe that music and songs are somewhat of a meritocracy, and, I could certainly smell the difference between a good one and a bad one. And yes, we just had to kind of work all that out, and we worked that out between the three of us, with management, with label, and everyone seemed to be agreeing on what the album should be, so we just had to go with that. And John was kind of instrumental in that too. He has a very eclectic, it's like weird. He likes odd stuff. So it was exciting having him be involved for that, for those initial conversations about what we were going to record.
I absolutely love that. The album is, as I mentioned before, titled "Oh, the Ocean." There is an exclamation point in there. Might be a bit of a silly question. I want to make sure that I'm, I guess, putting the right emphasis on the right kind of spot. Is it "Oh, the Ocean"? Is it "Oh, the Ocean"? What is the, I guess, can you explain to us why the exclamation point made it in to the title?
Because it's like, oh, the ocean, I guess, is what it should, you're somewhat shocked by its presence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I did read that was from an experience that you had, I think, a bit of a revelation at the beach. What was, I guess, what happened there, and why did that then turn into the title of the record?
I had, I guess, what can only be described as some kind of spiritual experience where I'd had a pretty stressful few days, and I took my family and wife down to for like a staycation down to, it's near Orange County, and I was on the beach kind of rolling with 2 or 3 hours sleep, and I was just like fixated on the Pacific Ocean, and it was, the only way to describe it was that I'd never actually seen it before, or it was the most awe that I'd ever felt in my life. Like I realized that I'd been, bounding around the world, just not being present for any of it. Mm-hmm. Being kind of maybe perpetually being like in some state of eternal disassociation or something. And I don't know, it was like doing a mushroom trip and seeing something for the first time, or being blindfolded for a long time, and then just suddenly being shocked at how incredible life is, and I'd never felt that way before. I was always taking it for granted. I don't know. It was a very kind of powerful moment in my life. It was like being able to explain gravity or seeing gravity for the first time. I don't know how to. I don't know. It was mad.
It sounds like it was kind of like a very, I think you used the word eye-opening experience. Did you find that then, with that happening, was there any kind of like domino effect? Did it change your perception or your view on kind of anything else that you then maybe thought was a regular or a normal thing you'd already kind of experienced?
Yeah, I felt at like peace for a good couple of weeks afterwards. I remember when it happened, like I ran over to my wife and was like, this thing just happened to me, and we were kind of going through it, but it was almost like it was accepting that I don't an acceptance of I was accepting that I'm not in control, or I don't know. Yeah, it was almost like some kind of religious experience, and it did last for a while. But then suddenly, I start falling back into the same old patterns. But because I had that moment, I can kind of go back into that place and take myself out of all the day-to-day stuff that I don't know. I'm still struggling to explain this one.
It almost seems like it was a bit of a transformative experience that sometimes is you're not able to verbalize or put into words. So I appreciate you kind of sharing what you could with us, because it's obviously impacted or influenced this record to a certain degree.
Yeah.
One thing that I really liked about this record, and continuing the kind of trend of Wombats records, is there's an element of evolution within each album that the band puts out. It never slaps you in the face. It's never, like a sharp right turn, but each record, if you kind of go and listen to them in order, that there's little different elements kind of added with each one. You can hear that every time you guys are trying to do something slightly different or add a new element or technique into it. I think on this one that was almost on My Head Is Not My Friend, where there was like a bit more of an indie, not acoustic, but I don't know how to explain it without saying too much about the song, but wondering how much of that is decided upon before you go into the writing process and into the studio, or whether it's something that you just kind of work upon naturally and organically when you're putting the songs together once you're in the studio.
I think a lot of the kind of sonic progression on this album was based just by working with someone different. And John Wood, he was a real stickler for recording everything from start to finish. We've been so used to like, we want to try something different in the chorus, and you like scroll along to the chorus and line it up, and then you start. Whereas he was like, well, if you're going to try something else with the chorus, I want to get like a full take of the entire song as well. So he was always recording all the kind of everything around the area that we were focused on. And it's kind of given it this kind of very human, somewhat loose feeling or energy. And I think that for me, for this album, I just wanted it to sound like it was full of mistakes, to be honest, with kind of AI and the music scene at the moment. I don't feel like, I feel like it's a good time to make human mistakes and record them and let people hear them. So that was kind of my big goal, and also to to make sure that the album all sounded like it was recorded in one room, in the same stretch of time, and for the sound of it to have kind of one voice, if that makes sense. I feel like the last album, and the last album was recorded in the pandemic, so that was a byproduct of that we were in different rooms. But that was my main goal anyway.
Well, I think it's definitely been achieved. I feel that there is like a certain chemistry or warmth almost to these songs and how they operate with one another. Curious, with obviously whittling down those tracks as we discussed, what happens to some of the ones that maybe didn't make it? I know that obviously for a lot of songwriters that there's a process of writing something and working out whether it still resonates or whether it doesn't, whether it was a quick mind flash of an idea that maybe didn't work out. And I know that when you and I previously spoke, which was at South by Southwest last year in full disclosure to listeners, we might be talking a little bit earlier than the record coming out last year in 2023. We talked about Love, Fame, Tragedy and kind of the difference between how you work out what song works or what project. I guess similar kind of a question to what we spoke about last year. What happens with those kind of tracks now that didn't work on this album? Do they maybe become repurposed? Are there some that still resonate highly with yourself that maybe you will find a purpose for?
Yeah, I don't know where they'll go. There's certainly two songs that I thought were amazing that didn't make the record, which is kind of unusual. But you see, the thing is, it's like I kind of feel like it's not really part of my job to decide what songs go on there, for want of a better word. For I mean, obviously I want the best material on there, but I need to let other people help us in that decision. Otherwise we just all go insane. And I think I saw this with a friend last night, but being an artist, you kind of have to be so sensitive that you can kind of delve into these dark or weird parts of yourself, and in order to write in order to write something that resonates with other human beings, but also at the same time you need to like literally wear like armor around yourself when you release them into a free market and people give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And so in between those two things is what we're talking about now. And I kind of feel like I don't have fighting for the songs. I'd rather just write another one.
Which is totally fair. If you don't mind me asking, primarily a songwriting podcast, is there a routine or like a method that you use regularly? Like, I guess if someone was to be like, what's your regular process of writing a song? Is it similar each kind of time, or is it different to every time that you kind of get inspired?
Every song is different, and every song is a completely different beast or like battle. The only thing that stays the same is that I'm like a stickler for titles and kind of what the concept of the song is going to be. Because if I don't believe in the concept, or I think it's weak or watered down, or it doesn't resonate with me, then I find it difficult to see it through to the end. Because because most songs do present the odd problem, some less, some more. But if I believe in what it is at its fundamental, like what is it about? What is this title weird enough to make me want to listen to the song? If it has that element to it, then I feel like I can work on it for months or years. And if it doesn't have that, I'm kind of like, maybe I should try something else. So the titles are very important to me.
Have you got a possibly a notes app, a journal app that's just full of potential titles?
Yeah, it's obscene. Yeah, it's from if I scroll into it enough, it's kind of second, third album stuff, and it's just all full of titles, which I'll just open up and pick one and start freaking out.
I love that though. It's kind of a nice way it gives you somewhat of a foundation or even like an outline of something to work with instead of going into something blank when you're writing.
Yeah, no, it's very helpful for that. And even if I kind of don't feel inspired, or there's a phrase, inspirations for amateurs, which I kind of believe in. So if I'm not, if I don't personally have the inspiration that day, then I know that I have it in that silly notes folder somewhere.
I absolutely love that. Well, if I may be so bold, and please feel very free to decline, would you be willing to share maybe one that didn't make it, or maybe one that isn't going to land, or a random one?
Well, now I've got to try and find a good one.
Again, you are more than welcome to decline, because we also don't potentially want to give away anything that might be a future album title or hit.
I Only Wear Black, but I did that one. My Heart is a Ghost Town. I'm sure I did a song with that didn't come out. 206 bones. I believe that's the amount of bones in the human body. But see, I'm sifting through it because there's a lot of bad stuff in here as well.
Mm-hmm.
Colossus of Rhodes.
For you, Murph, what does make a good title? I guess without sharing any, what is a good structure, or the kind of words, or like tones, intonations that you're looking for with it?
Well, something like something with there's something powerful in opposites, like this kind of you roll in, I slope off, or something like that. There's always been something really profound in having opposites and juxtapositions in songs, in lyrics, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Blurry Life, I like that. That was something. I don't know, there's loads, and I feel like I've only just reeled off that one.
No. I very much appreciate you even kind of going through and scrolling for us. So thank you very much for that. As I might have disclosed earlier, although people will be listening to our conversation the same week that the album has come out, we're chatting in November while you are here in the country, which I feel went to try and have a kind of look, and I think I got lost along the way. How many times have you and the Wombats been in Australia and toured the country?
I feel like we've done it twice on every album.
Mm-hmm.
And then festivals probably. So it's like, I would say we are here 2.5 times per album, which is the same amount that we're in the UK and the US and Europe. I think it may feel a lot to Aussies because, most kind of UK or international bands probably aren't spending that amount of time here. But I feel like our music connected from day one here, and it's kind of important that we, show our gratitude for that.
Well, and I think that we are very grateful for that. I think that there is an immense love for the Wombats in Australia, and it kind of leads me to my next question. Again, you're here playing a festival, and I think doing some DJ sets in the roll up to the album. Once the album is out and people are listening to our chat, maybe some point in 2025, can we expect to see you back playing some shows in support of the record?
Yes. Yeah, no, that's all. I think that's going to be announced in January, I hope.
Very exciting. We will make sure that we share those dates along with this episode so that people can kind of purchase tickets, make sure they get themselves along to these gigs. Murph, we usually kind of wrap things up asking guests what they're currently listening to. For yourselves at the moment, what's on high rotation?
Oh, man, I'm just listening to the podcasts, and ever since having kids, my music listening has gone down quite a lot. I mean, I've been enjoying Idols.
Mm-hmm.
Idols, Spill Tab is on here.
Mm-hmm.
Reed is on the Zombies 3, the original soundtrack. I don't think that's me. I don't know. I'm always bad at answering that question.
Look, no stress at all. And I very much appreciate you having a look for us. Murph, thank you very much for coming onto the podcast once again and having a chat about the brand new Wombats record called Oh the Ocean. It's out right now when people are listening to our convo. We'll make sure there are links in the show notes so they can buy the tickets to the shows, listen to the record, purchase the vinyl, all of the show all the love that they can to the band. But again, thank you very much for coming to chat.
Thanks for having me, Simon. Thank you.